Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please make your way to a seat. We're going to be starting the program in just a few moments. Hello and welcome to Leaders to Learn From 2017. I'm Matthew Sabellis. I'm the Managing Director here for live and virtual events here at Education Week. And before we kick off what we believe will be an educational, unique, and immersive experience today, I'd like to make a few housekeeping notes. If you could bring us to the Wi-Fi information slide, that'd be great. To access the Wi-Fi today, please follow the steps you see on the slide before you. On this slide, if you have any trouble with this, the folks at the Reg Desk may have further information about how to manage the Wi-Fi. Please connect, if you could go back to that last slide for me. Please connect using the group's ID, Mayflower Conference, and you'll enter the password that you see on the screen, Leaders 2017. That's Leaders with a capital L. We think it's case sensitive. There's no space between leaders in the year, just type it as you see on the screen. Education Week constantly seeks to improve our live event quality. Does everybody have these on their table? These should have come in your programs today. These are your evals for the event. And many of you go, ugh, eval, I don't want to do that. This is actually very important. This was critical in forming the day that you're about to experience here today, and so we need your feedback throughout the day. The other way to give us your feedback is with the URL you see there. So if you're on your phone and you'd rather do your eval through there, it's leaders.edweek.org/2017eval. It's, since you're on your phone already doing the evaluations already, telling us how happy you are with the breakfast, we want to encourage you all to also go to your Twitter handle and use the hashtag #LeadersToLearnFrom. You'll see that on the bottom of each of the slides today, and we want you to be letting your colleagues know that you were here when it all went down. For those of you on Instagram, we also want to encourage you to give us a follow, if you would, @EdWeekEvents. We'll be uploading pictures throughout the day of all of you, so I'm sure there'll be photos of you up there as well. We have an exciting agenda today, as you'll see on the screen here, full of learning, leadership, and networking. That'll be happening in this room, but also for those here, you'll be being moved to the second floor. So anybody who went to the meetups yesterday, how many of y'all went to the meetups yesterday? Did you get out there? Great. So you know where you're headed, right? So at 10:20, you're going to be able to do what the folks on the live stream are not able to do, and you're going to be going back up to the second floor where you'll be able to spend time breaking down some of the content with our leaders to learn from. For our audience members on the live stream, you're going to have the opportunity to enjoy a unique meetup with Gail Plutnick from yesterday. She's one of our leader alumni who spoke at hers, and many of the attendees here, as you just saw, were able to meet with her, learn together, and network with her. As you'll have already seen on the screen here as well, we have a digital networking guide that's downloadable for you right now. It's at leaders.edweek.org/2017guide. On the screen, you'll see that URL, and it's there that you will see the names, the headshots, and the titles of those here in attendance. That includes some of our 75 leaders to learn from that we've had over the past 5 years. Some of those leaders are here in the room today. If you are a Leader to Learn From alumni, it would be great if you could take a stand. We'd like to recognize you. If everyone could join me in welcoming back these leaders to learn from. During our networking breaks throughout the day, you're going to have the opportunity to network with these alumni folk, as well as your fellow colleagues here in the room. And later at 4 p.m., you're going to have the chance to hear from some of them about their district leadership successes, which will include Superintendent Mary Ronan of Cincinnati Public Schools. She'll be speaking about her school turnaround strategy there. You'll also have the chance to meet with Christopher Chapman's. You'll hear about Christopher Chapman's equity work that he's doing at Oakland Unified School District in Oakland, California. And you'll be able to hear from Superintendent Steve Webb and his Chief of Staff, Tom Hagley, from Vancouver Public Schools, who will be exploring their community schools program. But before we dive deeply into the content of this day with you, I'd like to now take a moment to thank our sponsors. Without the support of companies like these, this event and so many of Education Week's other outstanding events would simply not be possible. This day, we're going to be doing something new, and we're really excited about having the opportunity to bring you some of their industry perspectives here with you today. When I call out your company's name, if you are here representing your company, I hope you'll please stand so we can recognize you, know where you're sitting, and so we can circle back with you. Today's diamond sponsors our Renaissance. We have Scholastic, Achieve 3000, and today's welcome reception sponsor is Waterford Institute. There we go. Today's keynote sponsor is Walton Family Foundation. And today's event sponsor is It's Learning. The live stream sponsor, thank you very much for the live stream as well, Rosetta Stone. I'd also like to take a moment to thank our returning sponsors. We want to give a special thanks to Renaissance, Scholastic, and It's Learning who have been supporting this important work for multiple years now. Today's event would not be possible without the support of these sponsors. Thank you so much for all of you. And with that, your day begins.
The great calling of the public schools is to teach all children. Our very future as an educational community turns on our willingness to adjust how we deliver instruction.
We are here to serve. Whatever it is that our community, our teachers, our parents, and especially our students need, it's our job to get it to them.
I've always believed that education is the only saving grace for anyone, black, white, green, or whatever.
The work that we are called to do as educators is very difficult work, and it's not work that can be done individually.
The best way to advance progress is to reach outside of your classroom.
We can overcome any obstacle if we commit to doing it one relationship at a time.
We live in an age of transition, without question. As fundamental as this sounds, it's absolutely essential. You keep your focus on the needs of each and every child.
Educators must step up and be shapers.
I know until I close my eyes and take my last breath that how far we've come is not far enough.
Good morning and welcome to Washington, D.C. and to the 2017 live version of Leaders to Learn From. This is our 5th year now of spotlighting the best and brightest K-12 leadership in the United States. I'm Leslie Maxwell. I'm an assistant managing editor at Education Week, and I'm the executive project editor for Leaders to Learn From. Over many months, it has been my privilege to get to know the amazing stories of the 14 leaders you're going to meet here today. After poring over hundreds of nominations that came in from our readers and our Ed Week audience, our reporters and our team narrowed down a list and went out and did some deep vetting and interviewing of lots of folks, and we got down to this amazing select group of educators who are demonstrating committed leadership to their districts, to their students, to the educators that work with them, and to their communities. So today I'm so proud to introduce you to these leaders. What's especially striking about this year's class is they all have what I call a powerful combination of tenacity and humility. Regardless of their areas of expertise, these leaders are all single-minded about improving the lives of the students and the communities that they serve. But perhaps more importantly, they know they are part of an enterprise that is much bigger than they are. They understand that it takes a committed team of players to succeed. They're not afraid to turn to teachers to seek their advice and insight. They ask parents for help. They tap students for their ideas. And they reach out to a whole range of partners, all for the benefit of children. Many of you have already met some of our leaders this morning during the networking breakfast, but if you haven't, not to worry, you'll have lots of opportunities throughout the day to engage with them, including during our Follow the Leader sessions later in the agenda. So I invite you to settle in and soak in the experience, the wisdom, and insights that we're going to learn from these remarkable people today. But first, to tell you a little bit more about Education Week and this singular special report and event that we have created, I would like to introduce our host for the day, Michelle Givens, who is our president and CEO of Editorial Projects in Education, the publisher of Education Week. Michelle.
Good morning. How many of you are first-timers to this Leaders to Learn From event? Wow. Well, welcome. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. And this is particularly for those of you who I see sitting here with a cup of coffee in your hand, and you're waiting for that caffeine to kick in. Once you're through all of these introductory remarks and the program really gets started, you're not going to need caffeine. In fact, I'm not even sure why Ed Week is paying for that coffee out there. This year's leaders will naturally pump up your adrenaline, boost your mood, and increase your energy level as they describe ways that their work can be a model for your district leadership. At Ed Week, we created Leaders to Learn From because our nonprofit mission is to inform and inspire positive change in K-12 education. The leaders that you'll meet today and the lessons that they'll share will definitely inform and inspire you. They're among the best and brightest school district leaders in the United States. These leaders and their work are a real and very practical example of individual public educators' capacity for supporting students, families, and community. They're also a powerful counter to the sometimes negative narrative about our nation's public schools. Their leadership takes many forms. For instance, we have a superintendent and a school psychologist who are casting a wider and deeper net for student giftedness in their Florida district. You'll also meet a superintendent who committed to leading one of the most economically distressed school districts in the country, only to be hit with a water crisis in his first months on the job. Not once has he used the crisis as an excuse for himself or his team of educators to let up on improving the teaching and learning for students. You'll also hear from a career and technical education director and two of his students about how a veterinary sciences program is transforming a community in the Navajo Nation. As you're hearing these stories, if you're a Twitter user, as Matthew said, I hope you'll think about sharing them using the hashtag Leaders to Learn From. I have one final thought for you before we move on. Everyone who's ever taken a shower has an idea. It's the person who gets out of the shower, dries off, and does something about it who makes a difference. Leadership is an action, it's not a position. Whether you're in the audience today or joining us via live stream, remember that a year ago, today's Leaders to Learn From were where you are today. They were reading and learning about last year's class of leaders. Today you're a reader, but perhaps tomorrow you will be one of our leaders. Thank you. All right. So, now, let's get down to business. It's on to our favorite part of the day, and that is, of course, introducing you to all of Education Week's 2017 Leaders to Learn From, and recognizing each of them for their outstanding contributions to their schools, students, parents, and communities.
What we don't have access to as easily for families and students that we serve as more accessible in suburban or urban areas. So the teacher leadership system at Central Decatur has been instrumental in terms of allowing teachers to break down the silos that we sometimes operate in, or break down the classroom walls.
Normally they're the student standards of what students need to learn.
A teacher leader is a person who guides and supports teachers in their learning, supports them in the classroom to help students and to guide them in their instruction, and overall look at data and figure out what our strengths and our needs are so that we can set goals and accomplish them. Some gains that we've seen in student growth is their fluency rate. Our state kind of really focused on the rate that students are reading, so we've been really progress monitoring and tracking students, so then that will also hopefully impact their comprehension.
Previously, teachers were pretty isolated. Everybody was focused on their one thing within their subject or within their content area, and now it's much more holistic in that teachers are working together, and it's in a really purposeful way, and so teachers' time is valued. But they're also gaining skills that they know when they take it back to their classroom that students need.
One of the edges of a smaller education is the fact that you are able to receive a more personalized service. By knowing who the kids are and creating those relationships with them, I think that you are able to create an even better environment for them to flourish. A lot of our families have chosen to be here, and we want them to receive the same type of education at Central Decatur that they would receive anywhere else. And that's always been, I think, the heart of the work that we do and the reason that we've chosen to move forward with teacher leadership.
Building up a teacher workforce anywhere can be difficult, but small-town Iowa has presented Chris a variety of unique challenges. He has worked tirelessly to recruit, retain, and improve the practice of teachers who might otherwise be drawn to bigger cities and bigger salaries. Chris, please come join me here at the podium. It's now my pleasure to welcome staff writer Michelle Molnar and Superintendent Patricia DeClauds of Wisconsin's Kettle Moraine School District to the stage.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here, and especially thank you to Pat DeClauds for joining us. She's being recognized today for innovation as the superintendent of Kettle Moraine School District. And innovation in the sense that for the past decade, she has led a personalized learning journey through the wilds of personalized learning, and really had lots of lessons to learn that she shared with us. So I had the opportunity to go visit, and when I asked, when I got there, Pat said, well, you know, we get like maybe 100 leaders, 200, 300 a year. So when you have so many educators coming, what are they asking you? What's the biggest question, the first question they ask you?
First question usually is how. And I would tell you that there isn't one answer to that question. It's really founded on the belief of the educators in the district and empowering them to be part of the problem solving. We talk about top-down support for bottom-up innovation, and all of the good work that's occurring in our district is based on the work of our educators. It's not like I'm the brilliant one in the group, but I do know great education, great teaching, and they're making it happen.
And so often you tell them that the first thing they should be asking is not so much how, but why.
Right, and always start with the why.
And what was your why?
Our why really started back in 2006, or 2005, when the board in a budget meeting deliberating 5 months or more on how to cut budgets, out of the blue, a board member said, well, I move we charge administration. Have any of you heard that word, right? I move we charge administration to transform our educational delivery system to better and more efficiently meet the needs of all students. Second, any question? All in favor? 7 unanimous votes, right? And I'm like, what happened? And I like to say there was no, Transformation for Dummies book out there. And we really didn't know how to start. But we engaged our community through a scenario planning process, and we have been on that quest. And I often thank my board for giving that charge to transform, because there's so much in this 21st century that's different from the way we were educated. And to be given that charge to make it look different, to make it something that's, we talk about the difference between remodeling and redecorating. Redecorating is pretty cheap and easy and it looks fresh. Remodeling is messy and dirty, and usually you get in a fight with someone over it, and by the time you're done, it looks different. We are embracing that charge to transform, and when you come into our district, you see learning that looks different.
So tell me what you would see coming to your district. I know I saw kids who were very self-directed in their learning. Do you want to give a couple
We really felt like we needed to move from education that's compliance-based to education that's agency-based. And when you personalize learning for students, you recognize them as individuals. So you're not teaching to the middle. You're teaching to each individual through small groups, through collaboration, through students' agency in solving real-world problems. Whether you're talking about a kindergarten class solving that problem or an AP physics class solving that problem. It's very much focused on engagement and student agency.
And you're a big believer in data. You like data, you like to use data in your decision making. Do you want to give us an example of that?
And we have, as I'm sure many of you have, district and school goals that are broken down into 100-day plans, and we monitor those 100-day plans on a monthly or semi-monthly basis to make sure we're on track to accomplish the goal, the 100-day plan. If we're not making progress, we have immediate conversations, and at times we change our direction. So it's a constant monitoring, not just of academic growth, but also the social emotional indicators that what we're doing is having an impact. And student voice is as important as teacher voice as we do the work that we do.
And you decided to introduce the OECD test for schools, which is part of the PISA program, and because you wanted your students to measure up. So could you explain that decision for us, please?
And I would encourage all of you to look into that. One of the things that I think is a real hindrance to American public education is the fact that we've been painted with a brush that says we're failing. We are educating kids who will compete in a global society. I don't care what state in our nation. You will be competing, you will be living in a global society. So it was really important to us that we had data that says what we're doing was right, not just because it felt good, but because we could deliver results. So the OECD test for schools allows us as a district to benchmark our high schools against an international standard. Our comprehensive high school compares with Finland, Germany, Canada, very well-respected education systems. But the interesting piece of data is that our charter schools, our High School of Health Science, and most importantly, our Performing Arts Academy, is ranked right up there with Singapore, second to Shanghai. A performing arts school is not known for math and science. And these students are so engaged in their learning that their achievement scores are there. But more importantly, when you look at their learning climate, their agency and efficacy in the work that they're doing, it is off the charts. Now we're looking for longitudinal data. It's our 4th year of doing the assessment, and we believe that with that data, people want to know more about how to bring that into their districts.
So the biggest misconception in our last seconds about personalized learning. We have about half a minute.
The biggest misconception in my mind is people think it's a box or a thing. And there is no one definition for personalized learning. It doesn't look the same in classrooms across my district. It's really important to recognize if you're personalizing, you have to take context into consideration. So what might work in, Flint, Michigan might look very differently in my district, and that's okay. You have to empower the educators and the students if you really want to personalize learning. It has to reflect that voice, choice, path, pace, and place.
Very good. Please join me in thanking Patricia DeClotz.
Superintendent DeClotz instills a culture of personalized learning in which students choose how and what they learn, and teachers create their own micro-credentials to advance their careers. For her, being a leader in K-12 means helping both teachers and students achieve their fullest potential by working the levers of individual motivation and inspiration. Pat, please come join me here at the podium.
I knew coming in that I was going to be a part of a heavy lift, but this was something that none of us saw coming. The question becomes, okay, you have a crisis, so do you just kind of put your goals to the side and deal with crisis? Or do you figure out a way to manage crisis and still move the work forward? At the time, I was away at a conference here in Michigan. There was a press conference where the medical community shared some data, some very alarming data as it relates to children in lead levels. Immediately, I'm in shock, like, okay, that's serious. And so that press conference was held, I want to say maybe a Wednesday of that particular week. And by Friday, I had made the decision that the students of Flint Community Schools will not, I repeat, will not consume the water. You had so many folks who were approaching me saying, what are you going to do? So what are you going to do? What is your plan? What is your plan? I tell people, even with a crisis like one that we're facing here in Flint, we only have 1 year to get it right for a child. And I'm sorry, I can't look at a child and say, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to educate you that year because we were dealing with a water crisis. That's not a fair excuse. So I had to maintain a laser-like focus and keep this district focused on what mattered most and what always will matter, and that's teaching and learning. Hey, man. Good to see you. You know, when you hear Flint, you automatically think, oh my God, the water crisis city. And we here in Flint, we do not want the water crisis to define us. It still was a little alarming to me to have to go into a room and, see bottled water sitting at a child's desk or a stack of bottled water in the corner, because it shouldn't happen. And it's such a basic need. It's so basic. But we're moving forward. As a community, as a school district, we're focused on what we have control over, and that is making sure we have a very strong system that's able to meet the needs of all of its children.
Amid Flint, Michigan's water crisis, Schools Chief Twab refused to use the emergency as an excuse from keeping his team of educators focused on improving student achievement in a long, struggling school district. This superintendent maintains a mantra of stay calm, keep focused on teaching the students, and set clear goals and relentlessly pursue them in the face of adversity. Bilal, please join me here at the podium. All right. Please join me in welcoming to the stage staff writer Daryl Burnett and Sharon Griffin, the Chief of Schools in the Shelby County Schools in Memphis, Tennessee.
Good morning. So I'm Daryl Burnett. I had the privilege of covering Dr. Griffin for 2 years, and she had the most personality of any administrator I've ever covered in my 10-year career as a journalist. So I was actually kind of excited to see so many nominations coming from the district. So Dr. Griffin, you led one of the fastest turnaround efforts in Tennessee. I'll just start really simply. How did you do it?
Well, first, I think it's important that whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. So the first thing that we really focused on was an unwavering belief that the work was even possible. So that meant like us performing in our district like none other. We had to actually create profiles for schools. And instead of just hiring principals based on if they were elementary, middle, or high school, we hired principals based on the need. And if a person did not fit the needs of that school through their experiences or even their expertise, we didn't hire them. The second piece was we allowed principals, after they were hired and the need was met, to hire every single teacher in the school. We made sure to communicate that early so that teachers wouldn't be surprised that turnaround work is difficult and that they knew what to expect going into the situations. The third piece was we knew that we could not hire all level 5 teachers, which is our highest mark in our district. So we hired content coaches at the district level. So all of our teachers had the opportunity to be coached by an expert in their field. So before we got test results in the spring, we were able to go in on a bi-weekly basis to support our teachers where we identified deficits. And fourth is partnerships. Many of our schools in turnaround situations, they had kids who had suffered extreme trauma. Just through poverty alone, they had witnessed things that were catastrophic. And so we needed some social and emotional supports within our schools. So before we even taught math or English or science, we made sure that all of our students' basic needs and even their social and emotional needs were met. And as a result, we have 21 schools right now, and 11 of the 21 schools have made double-digit gains. So we're excited.
So as you know, under the Every Student Succeeds Act, districts now have much more flexibility with the expiration of the SIG grants to design their own turnaround work.
Yes.
So as districts kind of sort of look at their most struggling schools, what sorts of advice do you have for them?
Well, one thing I would say is I think student-based budget allocations is going to be huge. So many times we've used the cookie-cutter approach, and we think that what's best for one school is best for the other 186 schools in my case. And in many instances, we duplicate services. And so we are not being good stewards over resources that we have just based on people are doing 10 different things 10 different ways. And so I think one of the biggest pieces of advice I would have is to make sure that you take a good audit of the services being provided, that you make sure the professional development for your teams are aligned, and that you actually support your schools based on the needs of the individual schools.
So you recently just got a promotion, Chief of Academics in Shelby County Schools. Now that you are overseeing several more schools, how do you plan on scaling up some of the work that you did in the iZone, and then also how do you plan on sort of sustaining some of the test score gains that you guys made?
Well, what we feel in the iZone has been our biggest asset is human capital. We've poured a lot of resources into people so that we can build capacity at the school level. When we first started the iZone, there was an individual coaching model where we coached individual teachers, and so it was possibly 3 to 5 days or even the next week before we could get back in to see a teacher. Well, in the process of scaling that up to all of the other schools, we want to make sure instead of impacting one teacher at a time, we impact one team at a time. And so all of our schools will now have instructional leadership teams. And on their teams, there will be content-specific people that will actually be coached by content-specific coaches at the district level. So now our teachers don't have to wait. They can just go downstairs, and those people can come upstairs, observe them, and give them actual real-time feedback on a daily basis. And so we know that that's going to be more impactful than waiting a week or possibly 2 weeks.
I got you. So talk to me about parent engagement. So as you know, there's a lot of mobility in Memphis, and you've had some very honest conversations there in Memphis. Talk me through sort of what the importance of parent engagement is and how you think of the role of the parent in Memphis.
Well, absolutely. I think first, as district leaders, we have to be very honest and transparent with parents, and we have to really tell them what we haven't done as adults. A lot of the issues that we see with kids, it's an adult issue. Because in my experience with working with schools that have been underperforming, you all, we didn't pump the kids out. It's the same kids who are now higher performing. And so what I share to parents is hold us accountable. When your students receive high marks, A's and B's, ask for how he or she got that, just like you would if it was a D or an F or a low performing grade. And so in saying that, it kind of builds a bridge of trust, because the parents in many instances have not trusted us, in particular when we were going in to support schools and take over schools. And so just that honesty and that transparency around what we were not doing, and then two, holding parents accountable as a parent, and then offering some supports to them has been quite beneficial.
So one of the things that fascinates me about Memphis is Dr. Hobson and you are both from Memphis.
Absolutely.
And I'm wondering, I mean, you taught and you were a principal at one of the schools that was in turnaround status.
Yes.
And then you also graduated from one of the schools that was in the iZone. So talk to me about being a product of Shelby County Schools and then leading some of the changes. What are some of the assets? What are some of the benefits? What are some of the insights that you have as a Memphian that an outsider may not have?
Right. Well, I think that Memphis is a national proof point of what can happen when you're very deliberate to put the right people in front of kids. And so I think we have to be really transparent and honest to say that our district has changed, and that the poverty that now exists, we have to change and address some needs socially and emotionally that when I was a student 30 years ago, we didn't have to address. And so I have to consistently say to people that English and math and science, all of those are important. But it has been just as important as a native Memphian to have a clothes closet, to have a food pantry, to have the optometrist actually take time during the course of a day, come and check the eyes, have a dentist come. Because if children are not physically well, they can't learn. And so I think that has been a shift. And even being from Memphis, being able to say that and then actually inviting people in, we have something that we do in the iZone that's very different. We want to take you to the most challenging classrooms. When you normally visit schools, we kind of matriculate to the best teacher, the kids who are well behaved and can answer all of the questions, but that's not really where we need the help. So we're very deliberate to take guests and visitors to our most challenging classrooms. We want you to see where the needs are so that I can garner the resources to make it happen.
We're out of time. Please give a round of applause for Dr. Griffin.
Chief of Schools Griffin has led an urgent effort to turn around the academic performance of more than 20 low-performing schools in Memphis. Sharon harnessed the right resources, empowered principals, and hired teams of educators who deeply understand a school's population, culture, and academic challenges. Sharon, please join me here at the podium.
Today's the beginning of my destiny.
Today is the beginning of my destiny.
My future is bright.
My future is bright.
The world is depending on me.
The world is depending on me.
And I will not let them down.
And I will not let them down.
Today and every day.
Today and every day.
I am a lion king.
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 Good morning.
My name is Travis. Welcome to Lakeview.
Nice to meet you, Travis.
And my name is John. Welcome to Lakeview.
Nice to meet you. Well, I noticed when you came in and you shook my hand, everybody looked me in the eye. You told me who you were. And you said something else. You might have said good morning or welcome to Lakeview. It made me feel welcome. Well, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm impressed by it. I'm Burke Royster. I'm superintendent of Greenville County Schools. This is my 37th year in education. Everything we do in our business is people-centered. Really, the roots of On Track Greenville go back to a conversation that I had with the leadership of United Way several years ago. They adopted a philosophy of cycle of success. In other words, trying to break the cycle of poverty by replacing it with a cycle of success. The Highway 25 corridor is a challenge not just to Greenville County Schools. The students that attend schools in those areas have a lot of barriers to being successful in school.
I was a kid who did not like to read at all. So I have joined the Men Who Read program in 4th grade, and it had pushed me a lot to do what I'm supposed to do. It pushed me a lot to read, to become a better reader. It expanded my vocabulary, and it got me where I am now. Today is different because we never did this barbershop panel before. So it's like a lot of kids that's part of the Men Who Read program gets their haircut today.
Do you like to read?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, sir.
You expand your vocabulary. That's going to help you when you get ready to take the SAT.
We're not necessarily expert in social services. So it's a chance for us to work with those people who are, those agencies and those nonprofit organizations that can help those students and their families remove those barriers that are impeding their success in school.
Whenever you get into this business here, you're never going to be broke. Do you have Spanish in you? Yeah.
We have the ability to very early on and quickly identify those students that are being affected by those barriers. And you see that when you look at our On Track program, and you look at that initiative, and you look at the early warning system that looks at attendance and behavior and grades. A team comes together in those schools that have the On Track initiative and works to identify what those barriers are and then quickly referring them to the people sitting around the table that are expert in dealing with them. What's wrong with a uniform? Well, you can be different no matter how you're dressed. I've been fortunate in my career. I've enjoyed every job I've had, and I like going to work every day. And I hope that we're able to prepare our students to have a life like that.
You know when they lick their lips, you know they're good to go.
In South Carolina's Greenville County Schools, Superintendent W. Burke Royster enlists a wide array of partners to help keep students, particularly those in poor communities, engaged in school and on track to graduate. He understands the depth of students' needs and understands that the district alone can't knock down all the barriers to learning that many low-income students face. he wisely turned to community partners who, together with his team of educators, are tackling poor attendance, raising achievement levels, and boosting graduation rates. Burke, please join me here on the stage. All right, so let me welcome to the stage contributing senior writer Michelle Davis and Chief Equity Officer of the Jefferson County School District in Louisville, Kentucky, John Marshall.
Good morning, everyone. I know it's kind of a cold and dreary Washington, D.C. spring day, but the good news is we have a very fiery personality here to warm us up. John Marshall is the Chief Equity Officer for the Jefferson County Public Schools in Louisville, Kentucky. And it's not a job that many people have across the country. While there are many educators who care about equity, who work on equity, I think it's rare to have someone whose sole focus is equity and concerns about that among the student body at the cabinet level. Let me just tell you a little bit about John Marshall. He basically has spent his entire life in Jefferson County Public Schools. He went all through school there, he graduated, he came back as a teacher, he's worked his way up. His whole family is basically working or studying at Jefferson County. So he's clearly invested in the success of all the students there, and he used to be one of those students. And because he has so much confidence in his mission, he's the person who has to ask the difficult questions, the uncomfortable questions about why some groups of students are succeeding while other groups of students are falling behind. And those are questions that not everyone always wants to address or wants to talk about. So if you've read my story, you'll know that John, one of the words you'll hear from John a lot is unapologetic. So I want to start by just asking you about what that word means to you in terms of how you do your job.
So when I say unapologetic, it's kind of something that I believe we have to kind of stand in our purpose. And when you stand in your purpose, there's no need to apologize when we're talking about improving the outcomes for students. School systems throughout the nation have to get to a point where we can put a critical conversation in front of adults and unapologetically say, but what about this kid that we're not reaching? What about this teacher that needs more help? What about the parent on the other side of the tracks that we've left out? And we unapologetically present data to kind of undergird and strengthen why we're doing this work. So without apology, we're going to have to get to that point, because I think we have almost apologized our way sometimes out of improving and reaching all kids.
You mentioned data earlier. I know that it's not just about your passion or your feeling that some kids are not being reached or some kids are not achieving to their potential. Right. You really focus heavily on data. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, well, and of course, my team's in the back, and so is my superintendent. I do have a lot of opinions, but I can't push the opinions out. We have to go with what the data is. So when we talk about data, we have to understand that that is what we have to look at to prescribe and to move things forward. There's no point in saying that we are disproportionately suspending African American males if we don't have the data to prove it. There's no point in talking about advanced program participation and the lack thereof if we don't go with the data. The data, in some instances, alleviates a longer conversation that we have to have. But at the same time, you know, we all understand as educators that are advocating, we can go with data and still have to explain it away and away and away. But without the data, there's no point in having a long discussion around an opinion. We have to take the data, we have to look at the data, and we have to use our skill sets to move the data forward, especially in a district the size of Louisville, 101,000 kids. I mean, without the data, we're just kind of just talking.
Well, and you created an equity scorecard.
Yes.
That I think is very clear and just describe what you measure, some of the things that you measure every year.
So the equity scorecard, it's on its second iteration, and the equity scorecard under the leadership of Dr. Hargens actually put those conversations that we might not want to have. So we were talking about the cross-section between race and poverty, and we looked at it from literacy, behavior, college and career readiness, and culture and climate. So we were looking at so we took this equity scorecard, shared it to anyone that wants to see it, had community conversations around it, and then my other colleagues that have been on stage and on the video talked about pulling the community in. That was a different way to start having a conversation around not what JCPS, the school system, needs to do, but what Louisville, Kentucky needs to do. So when you expose inequity in a way and create a space where it's safe to talk about the inequities, it does a couple of things. It makes the district now really have to own it, but it also makes the community have to own it. One of the things I really wish we could do as it relates to reporting, when we put out all of our school report cards and the achievement of all the superintendents in the districts, I wish it would say Louisville, Kentucky's school, or Louisville, Kentucky's achievement area, or achievement scores, as opposed to Jefferson County Public Schools. So what the equity scorecard did was throw the inequities out there, talk about them, and then we were told, how are we going to address them? So over the 4 years, we're diligent about some of those inequities and how we've moved them. And we've made some great attempts and gains in some of those inequities.
One of the things when I looked at this equity scorecard through reporting for my story, one of the things that I thought was really kind of shocking was that black students reported less of a sense of belonging than English language learners in your district. What does that say to you?
It says that we have to, simply put, it says that we have to do more. And we can't just put that on the students. We have to look at our practices, we have to look at our biases, we have to look at our beliefs, and we have to always have this high expectation of learning, but we can't just say that and then default to, yeah, but if they did this, well, if they came from that, or, well, it's because they're poor. We can't do that. So what that says to me and what that says to the superintendent, our teams in the district back there is, we have to do more. We have to put students in the center of those conversations, and we have to see why they feel that way. We can't sit back and say, oh, shucks, I'm sorry you feel that way. They are the client, and we have to do more for those students. So our African-American students clearly, in most of our urban school districts, need a lot more, but it's not up to them to find it. It's up to us to make sure they get it.
Well, one of the things that I think goes along with that is you've done a lot of work with teachers around some of these racial issues, how to best approach African American male students, how to approach certain segments of students. Talk about your efforts in that area.
So we do this now, it's kind of statewide, Equity Institute. We've signed the Males of Color resolution, which some other districts have had, and we actually put that conversation right in the center, and we talk about the differences and some strategy and how to reach students of color, students from poverty, and we really are intentional about how teachers and administrators and parents and educators reach out and work with those students. Our Equity Institutes and our Equity Scorecard and our work around Black male achievement is unapologetic. It does come with some resistance.
I knew that word was going to come out.
It does come with some resistance, but at the end of the day, if we go back to data, what else are we going to do? So when we talk about these trainings and we talk about things we need to do, again, it's not John's opinions. We're going on to the research, and we're talking about, and we're using some of the leaders in this room, some of the things they've done, but we're putting it smack dab in the center to talk about it. Our African-American students are going to be whatever it is we put in front of them. So we have to put the best in front of them and make sure that they understand they are not excluded.
I know, these are complex, they're not easy to address, these issues. And not everyone wants to hear what you have to say. And again, it's not, these are not easy things to deal with.
Right.
How do you approach the community, the teachers, the school board, when there's controversy over some of the moves that you want to make? I mean, one thing that comes to mind is you told me that there was a group of Latino students who had tested just underneath sort of the cutoff to move to advanced courses.
Right.
And you made the decision with the district to move quite a few of them to the advanced courses. I mean, what do you say to a parent who has a white child who says, I'd really like my kid to be in the advanced courses too, and they just missed the cutoff?
So back to the part, when we were talking about, what we're talking about is our Gifted and Talented Advanced Program, Advanced Placement Test. And we had a lot of students that were missing that test, whatever a test is, by 2 or 3 points.
Right.
So we actually just got some community brokers in the neighborhood, not anyone suited and booted in the central office. We got people that they respected and understood, broke down what it means to put them in these accelerated classes, and said, now come along with us and let's call these parents and let's place them inside the advanced program. And then we'll put safety nets in there to make sure that they move forward. And in doing that, I think they are now 7th graders. The average of that cohort of our Latinx students is a 3.0. So what does that mean? It means when we actually have high expectations and we don't resist and fall back to status quo behaviors and practices, students can perform. So it's really about access. The parents didn't know that they could appeal. The parents didn't even know what the test is that they were taking, and then we said, test messed out the way, let's just put them in there, and they thrive. So when we talk about why would you do that, again, let's just go back to the data. Why would we not? How do we not move? How do we not address this situation where it's 2 or 3 points? And how do we? Shame on us if we don't do something about that.
Well, that goes to some of the discussions we've had about the idea of equity versus equality.
Correct.
Kind of describe your philosophy on that.
Equity to me is very simple. It's giving students and teachers and anyone what they need. I mean, everybody in this room can get a Huckleberry Finn book, a locker, and a right to ride a bus. But how are teachers going to make sure that that student, through literature, gets what he or she needs to understand it? One of the things, one of the travesties that I think sometimes happens to students is they're not allowed to bring all of their richness into the door. Their culture and their understanding has to stop at the door, and then we get to this very monochromatic understanding of how we're going to teach. So equity is finding a way for someone like me to understand that literature is a way in which you can move things forward. But beyond that is giving students what they need. It is putting students that belong in advanced program in advanced program. It's putting parents that don't quite understand how the Jefferson County Public School System works in a place to understand it. And it's putting teachers in a place to really teach differently. If we keep doing what we're doing, we're going to always get what we always get.
Great. I want to thank John Marshall for sharing his philosophies with us.
In Kentucky's Jefferson County Public Schools, John Marshall uses data to unmask racial inequities and demand policy changes and supports for students of color and those who are poor. His job is to sometimes ask uncomfortable questions and to confront issues about why some groups of students struggle while others thrive. John, please join me at the podium. And now I'd like to welcome Assistant Editor Andrew Ujifusa to the stage for a conversation with Doris Gonzalez, the Chief Program Officer for IDEA Public Schools in South Texas.
Well, good morning, everybody. There are 2 things that you should know about Dolores up front. First, she is the first charter network leader that we have honored at Education Week. The second thing you should know is that she originally went to college to be a psychologist, but she changed her mind when she saw the movie Silence of the Lambs. So I've asked the hotel to take the fava beans and the nice Chianti off the lunch menu. So you told me that if you were queen for a day, you would have every district have a pre-K program. That's your one of the 2 big initiatives you started with IDEA charter schools a few years ago. But it sounds nice when you just say it, but what were the challenges that you encountered when you started setting up your pre-K program, particularly with the demographics you have, and what kind of results are you seeing?
Yeah, so
We found that our incoming kindergartners for the past several years, anywhere between 40 and 60%, depending on the school, kids were coming in not even ready for kindergarten. They had just zero literacy skills or numeracy skills, to eliminate the achievement gap from the get-go, I knew that we had to do something. So we piloted pre-K. It is a half-day program, which proved many challenges. Several other schools offer full-day pre-K, and since charters are a choice, we had to do a lot of thinking about what all the barriers were for families so we could put solutions into place. One of the things we had to think about was where are kids going to go if they're a PM student and a parent works all day long? They can't leave in the middle of the day to come transport their child. So we reached out to communities, Boys and Girls Clubs, Child Care Development Centers, and created these partnerships with them where when we went to share this with parents, we could say, here is the solution. We've already thought of that for you. And we've negotiated a reduced rate with these centers, so you don't have to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for child care when we're already serving 86% of our students are from low-income families. So that's an example of some of the things we had to think about before they could sign up to come.
Yeah, and just talk a little bit about the parents. This was new for a lot of them. A lot of them weren't sure what to expect when they're sending the kids to the pre-K program as you were starting it. How else did you have to work with the parents and set their expectations?
Yes, so if you've ever experienced the first day of school with pre-K, there's lots of emotion that day. You've got kids who are really excited, and you have kids who are really scared, lots of crying and screaming in some cases, and parents are actually the same way. So first day of school, I'm always in the pre-K classrooms, and so we decided after our first year of one school and a pilot that we learned we have to do summer culture camp. So we had kids come in the summer, their parents came along with them. All of the crying and anxiety all happened before the first day of school with a lot of the teachers and campus lead team around to do a lot of support, a lot of talking, a lot of reassuring that as soon as parents leave, 10 minutes later, they're laughing and everything is going to be just fine. So we've incorporated now summer culture camp a few weeks before the first day of school starts, which has just eased a lot of anxiety, and parents are more comfortable and kids are more confident when they walk through our doors.
What kind of results are you seeing now that you've scaled up the program? I think it's in its third year now?
Yes, so we're in our third year. So I just, one of the principals just emailed me of my first pilot. Those kids are in first grade right now, and we have 98% of them who are going to end first grade, completely ready for second grade. We do this nationally normed assessment, and some are well beyond into second grade because we have a personalized learning approach where we teach kids where they're at. So we've got first graders already in our second grade curriculum, and then we've got some that are just about to complete it and be on target as compared to some of our other schools that do not have pre-K yet. They're probably in the 60s to 70s right now of kids who are prepared for second grade.
So you've taken a lot on your plate because your other big initiative that you started around the same time was at the other end of the spectrum, your advanced placement for all program in high school. You're the first generation of your family to go to college. What was your motivation? How did you come up with that idea? And what have you had to work through to sort of implement that? Because that's obviously a big challenge for the students as well as the teachers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our AP for All program started, we're in year 3, and we have 100% of graduates complete 11 AP courses before they graduate. That was mostly because our alum were coming back. We stay very connected to them. We're telling us, you did not make us read enough, you did not make us write enough, like we were not ready. And so we decided to do an AP for All program, create these college-like experiences in a really safe and scaffolded place. But what that made us do is our teachers were always exhausted at the end of the period, and the kids are just, whoa, like this is a great bio class. Yeah, I'm just like, this is a problem that teachers are tired at the end of the period and kids are not. So I say, if you are a teacher and you're tired at the end of the class and kids are not,
there's something that needs to happen. So we really encouraged and trained and brought in professional development for our AP teachers to be facilitators of learning and really let the kids do all of that work. So there's a lot of pre-reading before they come in, there's a lot of peer tutoring going on, there's a lot of group work and Socratic seminar where we have kids doing a ton more thinking and the teachers just know what great questions to ask.
So you've mentioned that when you were starting out your career as an administrator after working as a special education teacher, that your mindset was, I'm at the center of all of these things. I'm the nucleus and everything revolves around me. Your thinking has evolved a little bit.
Thank
so
God.
in terms of your leadership style and idea, how would you say it's evolved?
Yeah, so I did feel like I had to know everything, and you know, my colleagues, and some of them are here, and my sister is here, will all attest that. I've got this little plaque in my office that I bought for myself that says micromanager. And I just felt I had to know everything. And I had to know it better than my lead team, better than teachers. And when I finally woke up and realized 5 or 6 years ago that that was not going to happen, I hired differently. I needed to hire people who were experts and knew more than I did and trust that they were going to make those decisions. And me, myself, just ask better questions. So we do a lot of collaborative work. We ask for feedback all the time. We ask for input. I do several topics. We just lock ourselves in an office and call them think tanks and allow ourselves to color outside the lines to try to come up with multiple solutions and then pick the one that we feel is best as a team.
Think tanks, that would go over well here in Washington. We are out of time, so please join me in thanking Dolores Gonzalez.
As the head of academic programs for IDEA Public Schools, Dolores Gonzalez is focused on erasing achievement gaps in the earliest years and putting all students on a firm footing to make it to college and to graduate. She has used the experiences of IDEA alumni who struggled in college to make important changes to the high school program so students feel more prepared and confident for higher education. Dolores, please join me here on the stage.
People can't fix what they can't see, and a lot of our families don't know how to describe what they're experiencing. I have an opportunity that allows our staff and our school members to be able to harness that love that parents have for their children and use it in a way that allows our schools to serve our children more effectively. Part of today's training meeting is going to be about how to help families transition their kids from elementary to middle to high. Federal Way School District is the most diverse in the entire state of Washington and the 8th largest school district in the state. My role is to lead, train, supervise 23 family liaisons in the elementary schools. The family liaisons go into the community and they build partnerships and they provide parents with the information they need and build this bridge between the staff, the schools, and the families in the community.
They want their kids to go to where there's the best program.
One thing that Therese always tells us is that we need to have that relationship with these families so that they can have that trust with you. Because when they have that trust, especially within the school, you know, then it's easier for their kids to succeed. We're visible for our families. We can have platforms and pathways where they're able to talk about concerns that they have or ways that they can get involved.
Teachers say to me, now that I'm doing family engagement as a strategy, I'm understanding how to teach the students. The hope is that teachers learn from parents, parents learn from teachers, and children are able to learn from both. The ultimate goal is to ensure that our students are graduating from high school with a hope for them to have secondary education.
Well, we have 2 5th grade classes, and they dress up like scientists on Wednesdays and Fridays. Yeah.
I've served under 4 superintendents, and When you ask how has family engagement stayed on the front burner, I can easily answer. When you empower parents, they speak up for themselves, they speak up for their children, they support teachers, they applaud principals, they applaud superintendents that listen to them. The family voice, the voice that comes from the love, the heart, the passion about their child, that voice has a place in the education system.
You made it very clear, I'm a parent who has a voice, I've been to these meetings before, you can talk.
My most memorable moments in this work is when I get to hear a parent say, I realized how important my voice is, how important my partnership is, and how important it is for my child to know that I'm working with them and their school to ensure that they succeed. That inspires me every day. And in our district, it happens almost every day.
Treese Moore's work as the Director of Equity and Family Engagement helps turn a community of parents and family members into their children's primary educators and advocates. Moore and her team have reached out to parents who previously didn't feel comfortable at PTA meetings. Treese doesn't just equip parents with strategies to navigate a big school system, she puts parents at the center of the district's decision-making. Treese, please join me at the podium. Let me welcome to the stage Education Week Associate Editor Catherine Gewirtz, Clyde McBride, the Director of Career and Technical Education at Kayenta School District in Arizona, and two of his great students, Raquel Whitehair and Trevon Nezosi. This is the first time we've had students join our leaders on stage. So please, everyone, give a warm round of applause to these leaders.
Well, I had the privilege to go to the northeastern corner of Arizona, to Monument Valley High School on Navajo Nation, to meet these people and find out about their program, to meet Clyde, and Raquel and Trevon were two of the many students I met there. So let me just describe what this program looks like. It's an ordinary looking high school, but it's got a very not ordinary $2.5 million agricultural sciences building that Clyde dreamed of for many years and pushed very hard for before it became a reality. It's a classroom, it's a working community clinic. I watched little goats come in, nervous chihuahuas, bulls, horses, they all flow in and out all day long, and these students are taking care of those animals. I also went along with a bunch of Clyde's students when they rode a bus out to a neighbor's ranch one day and vaccinated a bunch of animals. And these kids, they tackled the animals, they did the injections, they did everything they had to do. They are tough, they are smart, they are on it. So they're going to do great things in the world. But even more important than that, the sense of relevance to the community and helping serve this community and its animals, the students in Clyde's program out-achieve students in Arizona in general. They outscore them on tests, 100% graduate from high school, 3/4 go on to college or training, the rest go to work. So there's some amazing outcomes that comes with some very relevant community-based work these folks are doing. So thank you for coming. I'm done talking now. I want to ask you something. Trevon, I first met you when you were feeding bulls in a pen. And I asked you, this is a half-day program. I mean, they come for part of the day and they spend the rest of the day in regular classes. And you told me you really like Mr. McBride's program so much better. That's your favorite part of the day. Why is that?
Well, first of all, Trevon Nezosi, yeah, touching is Kitlachini, Bashis Chin, Torachini, that's a che, Kiss Ani, Ashin, that's another. 나 잡히킨 에나샤 토르네스제 아는 일카. Well, first of all, I like the hands-on experience. I like working with Mr. McBride. Every day we get animals in and out, large or small, but mainly I work with the big animals, the large animals, the cows, horses, sheep and goats.
So how does that connect to the learning you do in the rest of the day? Like, is there a connection for you? How does it fit together?
Well, in the morning, I have his class. Then in the afternoon, when I'm done with school, I go home and I wonder if my animals have this. I wonder how they are, if they got their vaccination. What to give them, then I think back. I said, we'll probably give them this spring. We'll give them this vaccination.
So it's going on at home for you, what's going on in school. And Raquel, who, by the way, is Miss Teen Navajo. Let's just give a little respect there. Raquel, how does this kind of learning tie into your personal life? And you might want to share a little bit, if you will, about what you're thinking. Both these guys are seniors in high school, so they're almost done. Why don't you share what you're thinking of doing and how all of this might connect to it?
Well, first of all, I'm going to introduce myself in my native tongue, just like Trevin did. Raquel White-Harian, although Ashihinchna, Kintlachitni Bashichin, is a Lana Dashache, although but any Dashanella, a quits Ago age, a Kantishna. And that is how I identify myself as a young Diné lady. I have been in the program actually since I was a 6th grader, so I am going into my final year, and I started out really small, and starting out as a 6th grader, I started with showing livestock. And as I've grown into the program, I've gone through the leadership processes. I've competed in the career development events that are hosted through the FFA program. And then on top of that, with the daily life that we get serving the animals and doing vaccinations and working on cattle, I've also gone through learning how to draw vaccines and giving the vaccinations hands-on. So with that, I've also grown into loving the health field, and I want to apply that to human health services, and I want to go into nursing. And ultimately, I want to become a registered nurse and specialize in pediatric oncology because I really love to work with children.
Thank you. So Clyde, let me ask you, you could have started any kind of career in tech ed program. You've been in Kayenta a long time. You showed up in the community as an outsider. You didn't first start it as a veterinary sciences program, did you?
No, first of all, when I arrived there in 1990, it was more of a plant trying to grow corn type program. And the immediate engage to the students was they were more interested in the animal science side. And I can tell you, growing up in a ranch and getting formal training in livestock management, it happened very quickly where a student had a horse that was having some issues, and they called me up, and I went out and made the horse better, and it kind of just progressed from there. And it was my decision that this is what the community really needs. They need somebody here to be able to care for the livestock in unique situations. And so that's when I turned the focus in our program to the veterinary medicine side and the veterinary science, because I could stay up all night every night treating animals, but it would be more important to teach that next generation, and so they have the skills and ability to treat their own livestock.
So you literally shaped the program based on phone calls and demands you were getting?
Yes, ma'am.
So what difference do you think that's made to the students in it and to the community members who send their children to your school?
We have a lot of students who the parents have to drive them about 40 miles to catch a bus every day because they're out of our school district. But the parents and the community sees the importance of that program. And, it all starts out when we're looking at anything dealing with the public is, in most people, you're just one voice strong. And, way back 20 years ago, we were having a serious issue of parvo infecting dogs, and the parvo virus just kills them off. And I remember a parvo dog coming into the clinic one day, and it's always this little girl that's holding this puppy, and I had to explain to her that her puppy was going to die. And when I turned around, all my class was crying. And I says, now it's up to you to make a difference. Probably in the next 3 months following that, we gave over 400 vaccines to prevent parvo, because they took it into their own hands. It's a students' program. They took ownership, and they're the ones that go out and promote services and what we need to do. And that's why I'm glad they're here, because they are the heart and soul. They are the ones that's out there promoting health practices to our local community.
Trevin, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not really planning to do a career with animal science, right? You have something else in mind, right?
Well, I would like to try to do both. I do like to do welding. Welding, and I like to go to school for welding, and maybe at the same time go to school for being a grazing officer in our Navajo reservation, or a ranger.
So you have a couple different things in mind, and I'm wondering how the animal science part of it pushes you forward with something like welding. I mean, someone like me would think, well, those aren't related at all. So what's the relation that you see between all of these things that you have in your mind that you might do?
Well, for the grazing officer, it helps me with my community, my grandparents, as we explain our clans. We all are related in some way. Our clans, we are related, and I would like to help them. Every now and then I do get a call from an uncle or auntie that ask me, how do you do this? Which way? How? So I go over there, take the time, and I go on that side. Then as in the welding, Mr. McBride always has a project for me to do.
I'll bet. Thank you. Well, I see we're out of time. Would you please help me thank these wonderful folks who've come from Arizona?
As you've just heard from his students, Clyde McBride's powerhouse program in pre-veterinary sciences gives kids hands-on experiences, propels them to college and jobs, and provides an indispensable service to their Navajo community. Clyde, please join me at the podium and bring Raquel and Trevon as well. Come back up.
My father first came to this country in the early 1960s, and he began working in the farms here as a farm worker. But the first farm that he worked at was here in Oxnard, where he worked for 3 years. I made a commitment to my father at one point when I was a principal and started moving up the ranks in the school system, that one day when I would become a superintendent, that I wanted to serve a community like where he started first in America. Oxnard is a working class community, also a diverse part of a migrant farm worker community. When serving a community that is primarily 90% free and reduced lunch, the majority of our students need all the help they can get.
Do you see that? Can everybody show me your reading finger? Say, this is my reading finger. This is my reading finger.
Reading is a gatekeeper, and it's a must. Having books in the home is essential. Our school district is doing its part. We presently have a one-to-one tablet initiative where every child has an iPad device, but not only that, we've also loaded it with a digital program, Mayan, and other programs that have the ability for students to download digital material and not only read it at school, but read it at home. Every child in this school district, no matter their income level, has the ability to have 20 new titles to choose from every day.
Research shows that time spent reading books is the single best predictor of academic success. The students we are about to honor this evening are definitely going to have that academic success because each of them have read over 1 million words.
One of the unintended consequences of our initiatives here in the Oxnard School District has been that parents are also utilizing our students' tablets at home, and they're also reading books and the digital books together with their children, reading to their children, or reading themselves.
Y las muchas noches que se acostó con hambre.
He was looking for food, but everywhere he looked, there was nothing, just empty pots.
The only way we're gonna best set up our students for success is giving them access to reading, motivating reading, do whatever it takes.
How are you?
Good.
Good. You learned how to read?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I want students to love to read for the sake of the joy of reading, but I also want them to never have as an excuse any class in general that they don't understand something because they don't have a strong enough comprehension level. Those of us that are educators, we need to acknowledge we were successful and we've navigated the school system. Now let's help our students all navigate it as well.
Give me a high five. All right. You read very well.
Yeah.
You like to read?
Superintendent Morales fosters a love and joy of reading throughout his district by leveraging educational technology, creating and sustaining a massive bilingual campaign, and making tens of thousands of books available to not only his students, but those students' families as well in Oxnard, California. Cesar, please come join me at the podium. Let me welcome to the stage Education Week staff writer Evie Blad and Jim Rollins, the veteran schools chief of the Springdale Public Schools in Springdale, Arkansas.
Hi everyone. I have to say this is kind of a cool moment for me. When I was a little baby reporter in Arkansas, I covered Springdale schools for a time. And so it was pretty neat when we were receiving nominations this year to see Dr. Rollins' name come up. And Springdale Schools is a notable school district because it grew so rapidly and its composition changed so rapidly. A school district in the 20,000 student range might not seem big if you're from California or from a metropolitan area, but in rural Arkansas, that's pretty big, and what's most notable about it is that it happened so quickly. When Dr. Rollins came to Springdale in the 80s, there were fewer than 5,000 students. And in the mid-2000s, early 2000s, the district changed overnight. Hundreds of students coming in regularly. The Northwest Arkansas region was the fastest growing metropolitan statistical area in the country. And in addition to keeping up with that growth in sheer numbers, the district added a significant number of Hispanic students and Marshallese students who brought different instructional challenges to the schools. So, Dr. Rollins, can you just tell me a little bit about what drove that growth and some of the challenges that it presented for you along the way?
Well, our region of the country, really certainly Northwest Arkansas, was a rapidly growing area, an area that really had been one of rich agrarian heritage over the years that began to grow up economically. And when you begin to think about the corporate presence of Walmart and Tyson Foods and really other corporate giants like that and the spin-off industries associated with it, you can appreciate why families began to look at Northwest Arkansas, Springdale specifically, They moved there from all over the country and really all over the world. And so our teachers really had to be learners themselves. We've had a mantra forever to focus on teaching all children, teach them all. And I can never say enough or express enough appreciation about the willingness of our teachers to adjust and, as I said, be learners themselves so that they're better prepared to serve kids from all backgrounds.
And it's really true, you don't go through a school board meeting in Springdale without hearing Dr. Rollins say all means all or teach them all. And I wondered if you could tell me a little bit about your philosophy. You have a really strong administrative team. You worked really hard to put good leaders in buildings and good teachers in classrooms. How did you go about finding teachers who could approach this change and meet the needs of new groups of students?
Well, I think we all want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And service to all children, I think, pulls great educators to you. We've been so fortunate, I think, to create a culture where teachers understand that if they really want to do good work, they can come there and be respected and appreciated and know that their voice counts. And when you have those kind of enticements that are a part of your culture, as I said, great teachers want to come and be a part of your system.
And can you tell me a little bit about, you partnered with the University of Arkansas to get more teachers certified in TESOL. And you have a large number of your traditional classroom teachers who are trained in second language acquisition and have done some culturally sensitive professional development to learn about how to meet the needs of their students. Why was that important to you?
Much of our growth during the last 15 years has been ELL children, families, as I said, moving to our area from all over the world, really. And so we knew that we had to continue to learn ourselves so that we could better serve the needs of all kids. Making that cultural transition, learning how to deal with children and families from different backgrounds, different learning styles, etc., was very much a part of our growth and development. Our teachers understood that. They are professionals at the highest level, and they were willing and eager to continue to learn so that they could better serve their kids. In order to do that, we had to create partnerships of all sorts. Partnerships with our universities, really not just our local university, the University of Arkansas, but universities around the region. Today, we have about 1,700 teachers in our district. We have another 900 support personnel, and thus all 2,600 of our staff are constantly immersed in capacity building, so we're in a better position to serve all kids.
And you are open about the fact that there are still some challenges. You want your teacher force to reflect your student population more. You'd like to have more Latino teachers. You'd like to have more Marshallese teachers. Tell me a little bit about some of the things that you're starting to do to approach that.
We've been constantly immersed in traditional recruiting initiatives over time. And we've had some good luck with that. But the thing that really inspires me the most are the efforts that have come forward, developed by our teachers, our principals, to develop teacher academies where we're training young people who have deep roots in the community to consider and prepare for the teaching profession, and that has produced great dividends. Today we have about 40+% of our entire staff that are ELL endorsed, meaning they've gone back to school, they've taken at least 12 hours of focused instruction in terms of working with ELL children. And I can tell you with a great deal of pleasure that 100% of our teachers have been immersed in ongoing professional development to better serve all children. We know that capacity building is the very key to our future, and that's certainly the case when you're dealing with a growing and highly diverse population.
That's right. Well, I hope that you'll join me in thanking Dr. Rollins for his contributions to education and his presence here today.
With his Teach Them All ethos, Superintendent Jim Rollins has been on the leading edge of helping immigrant students and their families find a firm foothold and sense of community in Springdale. And he and his team did this while the district grew at a rapid pace, requiring them to build new schools while figuring out how to meet the needs of the emerging immigrant communities. Jim, please join me.
Where I grew up and with my family, education was not a priority. As I grew up, and some of my friends had a focus on where they were going to go to college, and I remember that it caught me off guard. Like, what do you mean you're planning for college? And so spoke with my mom about that, and she said, we're poor, we don't go to college. Right after high school, I went into construction. Before I got into teaching, and I am a career change, I was in demolition and heavy equipment. I had made the decision that it wasn't enough for me and decided to go back to college. I knew that I wanted to have the life of the mind.
Okay, no problem.
The first year I was teaching for Paris Union High School District, I heard that there was this thing called the Technology Committee. And so I asked to join the Technology Committee. And it was primarily run by the tech director, and the meetings had some teachers there, but all they talked about was, are we upgrading to Windows 2007? Are we doing this and are we doing that? And I was frustrated that I don't understand why we're talking about this. Like, everything should just work. We should be talking about teaching and learning.
So, but the good news is we have.
I put that frustration into action, and working with the tech director before me, was able to sort of change the vision of the Technology Committee. And we rebranded it, and then it finally took off. It took off at what we call the Educational Technology Council.
Maybe more than two. We can put two right at the entrance.
So out of our Scholar Plus teaching and learning plan, out of that plan, we became a one-to-one district. Our students take home these Chromebooks every day, and they also take them home for summer. We don't collect them. When we first went one-to-one, there were people that were skeptics, and they were skeptics saying, oh, those kids and those kids. But what I told them, and it is a truism, that those kids, these kids, our kids, they cherish their device. They know that they take them home. In fact, we have people that work in this district and have kids in this district, and their neighbors come over to use the device to do their homework. They're not in our district, they're in another district. So we're not just providing devices to students, we're actually providing them to families. However, I would say a one-to-one movement is just the beginning. I think the district should be one-to-many. I think that we should be tool-rich. We shouldn't just be tech-rich, we should be tool-rich. We're not just fixated on testing and test scores. We're actually working on teaching kids how to learn. You save that in Drive and share it with each other?
The technology director in California's Paris Union High School district demands fast responses to IT problems and insists on keeping close connections to teaching and learning by sitting in on lessons and coaching his colleagues. That intersection between exceptional EdTech integration and curriculum and instruction is why we are singling out Joseph Williams and his outstanding work on behalf of students and educators. Joseph, please join me here on the podium. Let me welcome to the stage Assistant Managing Editor Leslie Maxwell. Formerly, we were going to have Christina Samuels join us, but she has no voice today, so Leslie will be stepping in for Christina. And a great leader from the Seminole County Public Schools in Florida, Jeanette Lukens, the director of Project Elevate.
Thank you, everyone, and I'm going to do my best to pinch hit for Christina, who is the person who should be here if she was feeling better. She's the one who wrote the amazing story about the work that Jeanette Lukens is doing in Seminole County in partnership with Superintendent Walt Griffin. And just a word about Dr. Griffin. He was planning to be with us here today, of course, but earlier this week there was a tragic incident in the district that impacted one of their families, and sadly, a mother and her 8-year-old son were killed in a domestic violence incident. Her 7-year-old son is still in the hospital. An 18-year-old high school student was also injured in this incident. So I just want us to take a moment of silence in condolence with our colleagues here. We're all here because we care about children, and of course this is everyone's worst nightmare. So thank you for your moment. Just a quick word about Seminole County Schools. It's a big district in Florida, just under 70,000 students. It's diverse. It's a high-performing district. But you guys started looking around at areas where you thought you might do better. And one of the things I think that the data showed you and Dr. Griffin was that in gifted education, the students were overwhelmingly white and coming from affluent families. And as a school psychologist who was getting those referrals, you were seeing that pattern yourself. So tell us a little bit about that, Jeanette.
So yes, while I've been working in a variety of schools across the district, I did notice disproportionality with regards to those gifted referrals. Depending on which school I was serving, there were little to no referrals for gifted versus getting them in every single day. Also within the referrals that I was receiving and noticing across the district, there was little diversity with regards to the students who were being considered for this program and these services. So I also noticed when I would be supporting those teachers in the classrooms, there was limited diversity in some of those settings as well. So there was great variability depending on which sections of our school district we were supporting.
So how did you start the work of identifying and removing those barriers that were obviously keeping talented kids from a richer backgrounds and experiences? How did that get started?
So we have a fantastic team, and we kind of came across 3 questions when we were analyzing district-wide data with regards to our culturally and linguistically diverse students. The first was, were they being referred in the first place? Were they even being considered for these particular programs? The second was, were they actually qualifying for our services and programs with the current eligibility criteria? And then third, were they really all being given advanced opportunities, and were those advanced opportunities appropriate and relevant for these children? So those were the 3 barriers that we really identified in analyzing the data and meeting with school teams. And we've really had a very comprehensive and approach to tackling these barriers, including a robust professional development for teachers, so that they're able to better recognize gifted and gifted traits in children and high ability students from these underrepresented populations, because giftedness can really manifest quite differently in students from poverty and students who are learning English as a second language. We also pulled in a family engagement component to that as well. We took a look at our eligibility matrix that we're able to use. The state allows us to use an alternative eligibility criteria for a select group of students to really make sure that that was actually capturing talent and ability of our children. And then looking at our advanced opportunities, really making sure that we were providing all students with a variety of options, not just those identified formally as gifted. We've done a comprehensive expansion and revision of our talent development program across our district to hopefully foster and generate some higher ability, and then also really looking at school-wide enrichment for all children.
Talk us through how you've been working with teachers to look beyond the kid who's always raising his or her hand, or the student who's earning the A's and says they love reading? What are those other signs? How are you going about broadening the definition of what giftedness is?
So we're really trying to work on breaking misconceptions and stereotypes with our teachers. And our approach is not just including grade level teachers. We've really expanded our professional development to include teachers who are teaching ESOL, our specials areas teachers, getting a more comprehensive approach and letting them all be aware of those traits. We're also using some innovative technology, bringing virtual classrooms to our schools. Yes, we're presenting trainings, but we're actually allowing teachers to have live interactions with these student avatars that are displaying these traits. And they're able to practice recognizing those traits and, again, trying to break and get past those stereotypes and misconceptions. It's all about relationship building. We're spending so much time in the classroom, working with those teachers. And another part of our project is tackling the instructional support and, again, those gifted traits through content. So we have content area specialists coming and training our teachers, not just a gifted student focus, but what are we doing, what's best practice for differentiation in each of the content areas, and how are we able to meet the needs of the high achieving and gifted students.
I know part of this work has also involved educating parents in these communities where students were not being referred for giftedness.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what it's taken to get parents understanding that they can advocate for their children to be referred.
When we were looking at the gifted data, as well as my personal experience as a school psychologist, we noticed that there are some schools in our district that are very heavy in parent-generated referrals. They're aware of their rights as a parent. They understand that there are possibilities for advanced opportunities for their children, versus some other of our schools, the parents were just unaware at all. So we have a huge parent component as far as advocating for those parents, meeting with them, educating them on what the actual traits are at home, what to look for, how can they support their student who's high achieving or gifted, but then also their rights as a parent of what they can ask for of their schools. I think at the heart of all of this work, whether it's parents, teachers, or students, it's all about equity and access. We really strive as a district to serve all students, and that includes high achieving and gifted, and we want to continue to see those academic learning gains across all of our groups of children.
And I know you've gotten some real results. I mean, your numbers have really changed over time. If you could kind of give us an update of where you started and where you've gotten to and kind of what the next phase is.
I think a great example, one that I reference frequently, when I began this work and was asked to do this, I was asked to go into a school that had one gifted student, elementary school, K-5. And I was in that same school last week, and there were not enough seats in the room for the group of gifted students. And also the diversity in that class. I think it's so powerful for these children to have peers in their same community and that look like them, that are from the same areas as them, that it's okay to be smart and I'm allowed to have this ability, and what can I do to foster more of it? Yes, we've had huge gains. We're very thankful for that. We have a lot more work to go, but we've seen an increase not only in our specific target schools, but overall in our entire population. Diversity is increasing, and we're getting closer to mirroring our district-wide data.
Great. Well, with that, we're about out of time, so big round of applause for Jeanette Lukens, and to Dr. Walt Griffin and App Central, thank you so much.
Seminole County, Florida, school psychologist Jeanette Lukens is scouting more broadly for talent and bringing more diversity to the district's gifted student population. She's working with teachers to help them look for giftedness beyond the straight A kids and those who always raise their hands. If you haven't seen the video story that shows some of Seminole's gifted students deeply engaged with and excited about their learning, you've got to do it. Jeanette, please join me at the podium.
Wow, that was an incredible array of talent and enormous amount of information. And for those of you who have been sitting here thinking, my God, I want to hear from Superintendent Twab and everybody else, you are going to be able to hear more from everybody right now. We are about to begin something that I think is incredibly special for all of you in the room and for everyone on that live stream. We want you here next year.